It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Tiffin's head cheerleading coach and stunt coach, Coach Cassandra Bump. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching and college cheer?
Yeah, absolutely. I started cheering when I was, 3 years old. Cheered all the way through high school and then started coaching right out of high school. So I was a volunteer coach for a high school program at 18, and fell in love with it. I knew I wanted to coach and that this was kind of the path for me. And you probably could ask my mom, and she'd say when I was 3 years old running around with pom poms that she probably could have guessed this is where I'd end up as well. So, um, you know, I went all in, and I don't plan on ever going out. I plan on coaching forever. So, um, went from cheerleader to coach.
What was that experience like for you becoming a cheerleader, and where did you cheer at?
So I actually am from Arizona originally. So I started cheering at Arizona. Well, actually, the first cheer competition team I was on was in New Mexico. That's where I was born. So my first little Pee Wee team was in New Mexico. And then we moved to Arizona when I was 5 years old. And that's when I started cheering at Arizona Heat Elite. Cheered there up until junior high. And then I cheered at junior high and then also in high school in Gilbert, Arizona. And there I was on the varsity sideline team, but I also was on the varsity competition team and the varsity all-girl stunt team.
What was that experience like after cheering, getting into coaching cheer?
Yeah, it's fun, it's different. It kind of puts you in a new perspective and makes you want to text all your high school and previous coaches and be like, "Oh, sorry, this is really hard," but in the best way. So, I started out coaching high school pretty young, and I'm also a young college coach, but I really like being able to build that relationship, and especially at the high school level, young men and women, very formative years in their lives. And so being able to be that role model and be that good influence and help them, move forward, whether it's they want to go to college or they want to go to trade school or kind of helping them find their paths was really special when I was coaching at the high school level.
What was that experience like for you being a high school cheerleading coach before making that jump to the collegiate level?
Yeah, so I was a graduate assistant at Ottawa University in Arizona, where I coached their cheer team, and that was going on at the exact same time I was coaching at Dysart High School in Arizona. So I kind of jumped into both right around the same time. Before that, I had that experience being a volunteer coach, so that was nice to kind of get my feet wet, kind of see what it's about, and then I really just jumped headfirst into the coaching world, doing high school and college at the same time. So I think it's one of those that you kind of just got to go for with coaching. You're never going to feel like you're fully ready, but then when you get there, if you just trust that you know your stuff and you know what you're doing and have a good attitude, then it all works out.
How was that experience like for you going to Ottawa and getting to be the cheerleading coach at Ottawa?
It was awesome. I was obviously a young graduate assistant, so I had people on my team that were older than me. So during that year, I feel like I matured a lot and I grew up a lot, and I had to learn, communication styles and ways that I could um, coach and deal with conflict and things like that with people who were actually older than me. And so it really forced me to step into uncomfortable positions that really made me a really um, more mature coach in this era now. So um, it was awesome though. I love cheerleading. I sleep, breathe, everything cheerleading. So it was an easy transition to go into that world. But then obviously the growing pains with becoming an actual head coach.
What was that feeling like when you were in Ottawa and competing for the national championship?
Yeah, that was awesome. Nationals is such a fun time. So our first year we were able to go in person. So went to USA Nationals with the college team and also the high school team. They compete back-to-back days, so that was convenient. Also got to go to Disneyland, so that was cool. So during that time, was great. We were runner-up co-ed in the college division, and then third place for the high school team that I was coaching. And then the following year was COVID, so it looked a little bit different. We were fortunate enough to compete virtually, so we were able to submit a virtual routine, and then it's scored and judged just like it would be at a in-person competition. And then from there is where we did win 4 titles that year. So that definitely brought some joy during the COVID times. So that was through our game day and then our co-ed team.
What was that experience like for you bringing home that 4 titles during that time?
It's surreal. Like even now I look back and think about it, and I have like my national champion ring that sits on my desk at Tiffin. Just kind of reminds me, where I came from and the goals that I have. So sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh dang, like literally like national champions. Like I still to this day can't even wrap my head around it. And I'm not coaching there obviously anymore because I'm now here in Tiffin, but I know that program has really taken off too. They now have a stunt team. They have an all-girl cheer team and a co-ed team and a dance team, and they just won nationals again in Daytona. So like Ottawa, love you, shout out. But it's just really cool going from that kind of building years to now seeing them really transform into a competitive program.
For you as a head coach at Ottawa, what was that feeling like putting on that ring, knowing that all of your hard work paid off?
Yeah, so I oversaw the cheer team, and then there was a dance coach who oversaw the dance team, and then we had a program director. So um we were we all worked very well together, and we did have a ring ceremony. Luckily that got cleared towards the end of COVID. So we were all able to we meet up, we had food and everything. We talked about the highs and the lows, and then our program director presented the rings, and we all opened it at the same time and got to see it. They were all personalized, so that everyone's names on them and what division they won and things like that. So it was a really, really, really special moment.
For you, what was that transition like going from Ottawa to coming to Tiffin?
Yeah, so definitely a big jump. So being at Ottawa where I had, a coach above me and then also a co-coach, going to Tiffin where I just became the head coach of a stunt team that was fairly new, and then the cheer team. And I had a graduate assistant at the time, and that was kind of it. And it was like, all right, go ahead, like take off. And we were like, okay. So I'm really thankful for my time at Ottawa because I feel like it was a very formative time in my coaching years that led me to be successful as a head coach of 2 different teams at TU. The admin at TU was very supportive and helpful. So being able to kind of have that support and have people rallying around me to help this program take off was kind of what really set me up for success.
How was that feeling like after getting announced as head coach to take over the program and build it as your own?
Yeah, that was I was actually living down in Florida working in healthcare. I took a little hiatus after coaching through COVID, and I was like, dang, I really miss coaching. So I kind of just started applying all over the country and was like, wherever I'm meant to be, I'm gonna end up. And I got the call and I was like, oh my goodness. So I took over a Division 2 program at 24. So being able to have that title at such a young age and have that responsibility is something that I'm like forever grateful for sure.
What was that feeling like, as you said, being a young coach at 24 and being a head coach at that?
Yeah, so it was kind of again where I was like glad I had that opportunity at Ottawa where I did have to have learning experiences on how to handle conflict with people my age or older. But also being able to coach, the way that you coach 21-year-old is a little bit different than the way you may coach a 15-year-old. So learning those coaching styles and figuring out, now in the college level, like there's a whole other side of academics. So being able to be a supportive role on the academic side, not that in high school we didn't, we obviously cared about academics and there was a standard, but you're a little bit more involved in college because kids are away from their parents for the first time and stuff. So I did a lot of self-growth and learning on how I could be a good support system for my team. And I think that really helped being successful, but also in my younger years of coaching.
Of course, as a head coach, what was that tryout process like in building your team around you?
Yeah, so I had some returners who were like, "Hey, yeah, like you're new, but we're gonna trust you. We're gonna stick around." And I'm forever grateful for that. And then I just kind of had to start reaching out and recruiting, building those connections, sharing my goals, my vision for the program. And luckily I did have a good group that really bought into my visions and my goals. And um now we're going on year 3 together with a big group of returners. And so they really helped me form that culture and foundation of Tiffin. And I'm forever thankful that they trusted me to go along with that process.
Of course, for you as a coach, what has it been like building that stunt program along with the cheer program?
Yeah, so it does get a little bit tricky because they are 2 separate teams. So we separate as 2 separate entities. Cheer is a club sport, so um, it's not as recruitment based or anything. It's more of like a conversation of, hey, I have experience. Yeah, okay, like it's a club sport, sure. Whereas stunt is a NCAA emerging sport now, which is really, really awesome because it does provide scholarship opportunities for female athletes, which I think is great. For those who aren't familiar with stunt, the sport, basically, it was the NCAA's way of taking cheerleading and turning it into a game format. So that way cheer can now be recognized through the NCAA. So there are 4 quarters to each game. There's a halftime, timeouts, coaches challenges, um, things that you might hear in like a football game or something, you're actually going to hear at a stunt game too. So that's really, really cool to have that kind of take away the game day aspect of cheerleading and put it into a more focusing on the athleticism side of it. So being able to balance those does get tricky, but it's doable. So like we practice at different times. There's different group chats, like everything is completely separate. So it was awesome being able to kind of build that foundation for both of my teams, but obviously there are challenges along the way juggling both of those at the same time.
Of course, what does that tryout process look like for both the cheerleading side and the stunt side?
So we are recruitment based. So we travel to combines and things like that. And so with recruitment, it's more of a process than rather one just big tryout. So we have individuals who will send in videos. Social media is really big, creating recruitment accounts, things like that. So with the NCAA on the stunt side of things, there are recruiting rules of when you can talk to athletes, how you can talk to them, things like that. And so we do navigate that, appropriately to make sure that we are in compliance with those NCAA rules. But a lot of time it is just, having an athlete reach out or vice versa, sharing their skills, their goals, and seeing if we're the right fit for them.
Of course, as a head coach, what do you look at in those stunts athletes when out on the road recruiting?
Yeah. So I'm a very good or a very big proponent on recruiting good humans. So if you are a good human and you have a good work ethic and are willing to try new things and put your heart and soul into it, that's what I'm going to look for. So, yes, obviously, talent is great and having skills is wonderful, but at the end of the day, I want to have a team that's full of good people. So, yes, we all want to win. Yes, of course, trophies are great. It's great feeling, but I would much rather have good humans who are going to strive for that than anything else. So for me personally, if I'm on the road or having at a combine or anything like that, I'm going to be looking for the people who are having a good attitude, who are encouraging, who are taking corrections, who are smiling, who are engaged, and things like that.
What does a typical stunt combine look like?
So stunt combines are typically held at different locations throughout the country. They are now, with the NCAA rules, more geared towards juniors and seniors in high school. And they're put on where they're able to, showcase running, tumbling, standing, tumbling, jumps. They can stunt. And so we're able to kind of get an idea of their skill level. But also a lot of times they'll bring, they call them cheer resumes. It's a little resume that shows, their GPA, what they want to study, and things like that. So we can kind of keep a face to a name. but also make sure, like I said, that Tiffin would be a good fit or, maybe not. So.
What does a typical game day versus a competition day look like at Tiffin?
For stunt or for cheer or for both?
For both.
For both, yeah. So, cheer, we cheer at football and basketball, men's and women's, and then we do attend all sporting events on campus as a team. So for football games and basketball games, we get there, bright and early, make sure we're warmed up, we're ready to go. We cheer on for football, we cheer band on in their pregame performance. Then we also perform as a cheer team at halftime. We do, quarter routines. We have different band dances, cheers, chants, get the crowd excited. It's always a good time. We get some shirts to throw out that gets the crowd really pumped. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of energy, a lot of smiling, a lot of, pom-poms and the stereotypes you see in cheerleading. But also we make sure that in our performances, we're able to show that athleticism through our skills. Stunt, on the other hand, being a game is a lot more serious on a game day. So, we, meet, usually get on a bus or in vans. You don't have to do your hair and makeup and pom-poms. You're in a jersey and shorts, and you're locked in. So, a lot of times girls got their headphones on. Maybe we'll play something on the speaker. And then we have a very structured dynamic warm-up that we do with a stretch and then a certain way that we warm up each type of skill per quarter. So it's a lot more strict in the stunt game warm-ups rather than the cheer.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've helped to build for both the cheerleading and the stunt side?
Yeah, so like I kind of mentioned earlier, big thing is good humans, and you'll hear me say it, you'll hear my assistant say it, you'll hear my team say it. Like, I just want to be surrounded by good humans. So that is the culture that I have been working really hard to build at Tiffin. Is, I know if I go to a Tiffin stunt clinic that they're going to be welcoming and they're going to be encouraging and they're going to be kind. Or if I go to a football game, the cheerleaders on the sideline are going to say hi to me and they're going to help pick up trash afterwards. And so that's something that's really, really important to me, is being able to facilitate that atmosphere, be a good example for my athletes and also those around. I think that especially on the cheer side of things, you are in a spotlight a lot of the time. You're walking around with your cheer uniform on, or you're at a football game, or you're at a pep rally or attending the soccer game, and people know, like, oh, that's a cheerleader or things like that. And so being able to be a good example is something that I really try to instill into my girls and guy. We're trying to go co-ed for cheer, so that's exciting. Stunts an all-girl sport, but we can't have boys on cheer. So just being able to instill that, but also make sure that we know the importance of why we're at Tiffin or why we're on a team. We're at college to get an education. And so I think that that's important to have in your foundation, is knowing that at the end of the day, that is the reason for going to school. And yes, athletics are wonderful, but also having our priorities as well.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see your cheerleaders and stunts putting on that uniform for the first time?
Yeah, it's always a good time. So for cheer, the first time we put on our uniforms is typically for our cheer camp performance. And our uniforms have, big sparkly dragon on them and stuff. And so everyone's like, oh my gosh. And you can just tell, the selfies start coming out, take my picture and things like that. And it's a good time. Stunt, it's a lot more, like, again, serious. Stunt is very fun, but because you have the opportunity to win, whereas like in a football game, like, yes, you're there, showing your pride and your talents and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, you're not winning a game, your team's winning a game. Whereas stunt, it's like you have the opportunity to win or lose. And so it's a lot more locked in. Like, keep saying that. That's something we say a lot at stunt. Jerseys are on. Everyone has their own number. A lot of people take pride in what number they have. It's a very prideful feeling. The teams make fun of me because I cry a lot. When I'm proud, I cry. When I'm stressed, I cry. And, I just cry. So I usually get a little emotional in both of those situations, watching either the cheer team get ready for their first event or watch stunt get ready for their first game. But it's an awesome feeling.
What is it like getting to see those seniors put on that uniform for the last time?
We were actually, me and my assistant Miranda were talking about this today, where it's like, dang, like, I don't know if I want to go to senior night this year. I'm gonna cry for sure. So going into my third year, I have, that group that was with me from day one. So I think this year is gonna be a little extra tough for me, but it's awesome. It's really cool to, look back and see, you know, where they were at in life when or with cheer or with stunt or academics or things like that when they first came to Tiffin and I met them to now. And then just to see the relationships that we've built and to see all they've accomplished and to hear about their future goals, it's super special. And it's probably one of my favorite parts about coaching.
What is it like getting to see those cheerleaders and those stunt athletes getting to represent the school and representing the logo on their chests?
Yeah, that kind of ties back into, being good humans and being good role models. So the dragon, everyone loves the dragon. It's always a big hit. So that's something that we do pride ourselves in is, oh, dragons, like people know who the dragons are. So we do a lot of community service with our cheer team. We do walk to end Alzheimer's every year. We volunteer at a local women's shelter here. So, I think doing things like that is really important and it fills me with joy and pride to see my teams participating in that sort of thing.
Of course, what are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Yeah, so cheer for our cheer team, we won a silver bid to Daytona NCAA College Nationals this year at camp. So that is our goal. We're going to fundraise and fundraise and fundraise and try to get down to Daytona Beach for nationals. So that's the goal on the cheer side of things. And then for stunt, we this upcoming season, so the Great Midwest Athletic Conference, which is what our stunt or what our athletics are under at Tiffin, they were the first conference in the entire country to sponsor stunt as a conference sport. So 2 years ago, which was my first year here, they hosted the first ever stunt championship, which we were lucky to attend, which was an amazing experience. There was only 4 teams there. We were one of them, and we got to make history. Last year, our conference doubled in size, and so there was 8 teams at conference championships. So it sounds like that they're only going to take not everybody to conference championships this year, and so our goal is to make sure that we do get to go for a third time, and ultimately we would really love to attend stunt nationals, Division II stunt nationals as well. So those are the 2 things on our radar this year that we're really going to be pushing for.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of cheerleading and stunt?
Yeah, so for freshmen, it's such a fun time. And I think that sometimes we're so stressed and there's a lot going on and there's changes and it's like just take a deep breath and understand that like you're where you're supposed to be and it's gonna be okay. Because it is a lot. I remember being a freshman in college and it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. You're like, where am I? Where's my mom? What am I doing? Like, I don't know where my classes are. I don't know anything. But then in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, that was one of the best years of my life. So just taking a deep breath and taking in the moment and finding different ways that you can take care of yourself. So obviously mental health is something that should be focused on, especially in college athletes. And I think it's important that we help these freshmen especially find ways to make sure they're taking care of themselves. So, finding outlets for them, getting them in contact with different resources on campus, being proactive with things is going to really help out those first years.
What advice would you give those college juniors transitioning from being juniors to being seniors and leading the program?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of self-reflection to be done each year that we move on in our lives. But junior to senior is a big one because all of a sudden now it's like I have one more year and then I have to go to the adult world, which can be intimidating for sure. So I tell all of my seniors, you are at one big leadership team and we discuss the different ways that we can be a good leader. And we also talk about, when you were a freshman, what would you have liked to see from a senior? What would have helped you when you were a freshman? And so we do a lot of communicating, a lot of discussion to see, what's gonna work, what might not work, trial and error, and making them feel prepared going into that leadership role instead of just like, okay, go ahead, so I'm trying to give them resources to make sure that they're able to be a good leader.
What advice would you give those college seniors out there looking to get into professional cheerleading, whether it's on the NFL or NBA side?
Yeah, so it's really cool seeing, the NFL have cheer-based cheer teams start to kind of come out. But if anyone's, wanting to do NFL, NBA, hockey, like anything that has cheer or dance network, go to different prep clinics. I know a lot of the schools, or I'm sorry, not the schools, the teams do prep clinics. So go to those prep clinics, get your name out there. Make sure that you're the one initiating, introduce yourself again and again and again, and making sure that you're staying current and fresh on those coaches' radar. Because there are a lot of people, especially, with the big DCC, Netflix, and all that coming out. There's a lot of people. So being overly, I don't want to say aggressive because that sounds bad, but just being like overly, hi, yes, do you remember me? I was here at this clinic on this date. Like, making sure that you're putting yourself out there and making a way that you're going to stand out among all of them.
What advice would you give those cheerleaders looking to get into coaching after their cheerleading time?
Yeah, so I would definitely say get with a college coach. Talk to them. What are the more enjoyable parts of the job? What challenges do they have? What does a typical day look like? And make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into. Maybe shadow someone, find a mentor, be a volunteer coach like I was. That was super helpful for me because at that point in time, before I did that, I didn't really think I was going to coach forever. But then I was a volunteer coach and was like, oh my goodness, wait a sec. Like, this is why I'm on this earth. I need to be coaching. So just making those connections and talking and getting to know what it takes to be a coach and things like that. Definitely making sure you have the passion for it, and trying it out. Just try it out at that point. Like, if you love cheerleading and you want to keep going, graduate assistant positions are great as well. I said that's how I really took off in my coaching career, was being a graduate assistant at Ottawa. So finding those where, usually you get discounted tuition and sometimes free, being a graduate assistant, but also keeping up with your coaching, I think is a great stepping stone into getting into full time.
What advice would you give those future head coaches out there looking to coach on the college level?
I think that it's important for coaches, especially in the cheer and stunt world, that we take a step back and give ourselves grace. We tell our athletes all the time, it's okay, or you'll get them next time and that sort of stuff. And I think as coaches, we're hard on ourselves, and that can be emotionally and mentally draining. So my advice would be to always remind yourself of the good that you've done coaching and the success that you've had on your team. And yes, of course, you should, always strive to be better and take challenges head on. But at the end of the day, give yourself grace and remember that you're doing a great job.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Tiffin cheerleading and stunt program?
Yeah, so my social media is just at Cassie Bump, and then our stunt accounts are at Tiffin Stunt on all platforms, and then our cheer accounts are at Tiffin Cheer on all the platforms. So pretty simple there.
Thank you again, Coach Cassandra Bump, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Tiffin as the head cheerleading and stunt coach.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Bump, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.